Well, welcome to the Nick and Justin podcast. It's our first freaking episode. Yeah, it's just two friends talking shop, syncing up on our weekly meetings and saying F it. Let's just record it. How you feeling about it, Nick?
I don't know. I feel like it's a long time coming. Like, I think it's something that we should have been doing this a long time ago. Think about like all the discussions that we typically have. Like, we go on these like super deep talks sometimes, and I'm just like, it would be cool to like get other people all chiming in on this.
And just talk, It's nothing in the sense of like techie, just we're in our 30s right now, Not to sound old, but
Whoa,
like
don't throw it out there like that. All right. I'm only 29.
No, you're not. You're 31 now. I think I love doing this and I wanted to do this because crap, I think the 20s was probably the best experiences and tribulations, just ups and downs, ebb and flows, and we can actually just kind of talk higher level things and it was kind of fun. So, yeah.
Yeah. No, it should be good. Dude, okay. So this weekend's Coachella.
Yes.
I'm sure like half of like your staff is missing right now.
Not even half the staff. I have no staff that's not interested in Coachella. I just see everything on social media about Coachella.
Oh man. Well, okay. Did you know that this whole thing was live streamed?
Coachella?
Yeah.
Yes, it's always been live streamed.
Okay, so for people that live under a rock like me, I had no idea this thing is live streamed.
Why go? You could perfectly fine. Just get your good speakers and then just play it like you're there.
I mean, yeah, but like, okay, so the reason why I ended up coming up like over this is I was just like researching some stuff, and then it came up saying like, oh, it's live streamed, and like they're like the partnership with YouTube, things like that. It makes sense. I think there was one time I saw Tomorrowland was being live streamed, and I was like, that's so cool. It'd be cool if like stuff that was here, because like, let's be honest, I'm not going to go to Coachella, dude. Like, one, I'm old, so like I'm past my prime on that part, and then two, like the cost to get there from the Pacific Northwest is ridiculous.
Well, for me, it's just the patience. I just can't stand it anymore. I'm just like, this crowd is gonna be so annoying right now. I just can't. I don't have the patience. I'm just like I'm becoming a grumpy old man.
When was the last time you went?
Like 2016.
Was it fun?
It was a time of my life. I loved it.
Would you ever go again?
If I didn't have to camp, yes.
Oh, dude, you could just be bougie. Go get the
bougie.
Yeah.
But I think when I go there, I think I'd rather just go for the fun of it in the sense of the environment versus the like really just trying to mess with maybe just stay in the back and just listen to the music instead of just trying to keep on pushing forward towards the crowd. I think that was the annoying part. Also, at a certain part of the night, it gets really crowded, and then sometimes you just have to have the homies like have your hands on the backpack and just saying, all right, we're like gonna centipede this stuff and then just link up.
Is that because of the headliner that night? Is that why?
Yeah, the headliner, the crowds, it gets bad. That was funny is because I lost grip on, I think it was Jacob's backpack, and we're all trying to snake through. Like, and I lost grip, and I lost him for the rest of the night.
Oh man!
So I was just roaming. It was fun. It was cool. Met some dope people. But yeah, I got lost, and the receptions, everyone's there, so it's overloaded on network. So it's like kind of hard to get like. So I was like, all right, I'm just going back to the camp and see if they're there, and then just call it a day.
So when I was like diving into this, because like obviously I haven't been there, but everyone that we know has probably been there or still goes. So I started going down rabbit hole. I was like, okay, hypothetically speaking, if I wanted to start a music festival, what would it take? I mean, not saying that I ever will, but hypothetically, right? And so I went down a little bit of a rabbit hole. So here, listen to this. So it started in 1999. Okay. Mm-hmm. It's by the same company, Golden Voice, that's still doing it today. But the first festival, actually, they didn't make money.
Coachella, like first Coachella festival?
The first Coachella, yeah, in 99. Yeah. They took a loss on it, and they had troubles with it for like the first couple of years. Like they had to take a hiatus in like 2001. And like they were just having some problems with that. And then after they like restructured everything, that's when they like started to really spike. They changed their like focus on who they're wanting to like what is that, headline and those kind of things. And then obviously they like really got down the sponsorship piece, right? Like there's companies freaking everywhere throwing money down. And people are spending a ton of money now to like, sleep on dirt.
Yo, if you get a bad camping spot though, it if you get there early, you get like the prime grass.
The
And
prime
if you
grass, that's what everyone's
prime
fighting
grass,
for.
yes, because we got there late because we made a detour and we got stuck in traffic, and then we got in the back lot and it was like hard dirt, like grass, but it was like packed in hard.
Was
It
this week
was
one or
not
week
com-
two?
This is weekend one,
Oh, so not even like one weekend's worth of
not
people
even
just
one
destroying the
weekend.
stuff.
Yeah, it was like I was like, holy crap. And then yeah, we met up with some friends. Like who was it? I think it was like Doe's group.
Hmm.
And then they were able to get like prime spot in the front like that year. And it was like, damn, this is nice grass. I was laying down on it like this is like a cloud.
The top thing was literally the fact that like grass versus dirt. Like,
Yes, correct. But digress. Continue on here on the timeline of Coachella.
oh man. So then, so I was like, okay, cool. The history's like fascinating. They went from zero to something. They got all the big names. Now they have like this hype. In 2019, before the whole 2020 like closed down and everything like that,
Mm-hmm.
they don't publicly post any of their revenues, but they were expected to make $100 million that year.
God
Yeah,
dang.
that's some serious cash coming through. And like I can only imagine. I mean, this year with like Bad Bunny, Blackpink, Frank Ocean, like the I mean, Blackpink by themselves, low key could probably bring in everybody. But then you got Bad Bunny, who's like the number one streamed person globally for the past 3 years. Like, oh yeah, they're bringing it in.
Oh, it's crazy though. I think what was it, Coachella? Like more headline, it was more derived to hip hop. And then at a certain point, like in 2013, 2014, it started shifting when I saw it. It was more like just more of a hybrid of everything. I think it was derived more of a hip hop thing more than anything.
I mean, Blackpink is like K-pop, isn't it?
Yeah.
I think it makes sense. You just bring in a headliner for like different generations or different like genres, and then when people see the pricing, they're like, "Well, I'm already spending X amount of money to be
Why are
there."
you doing this? No, it was a smart play on diversifying the performers. But I was like, oh, it would have been. I think there was one year when I learned about Coachella was when they did the Tupac hologram. I think that was Coachella.
Oh yeah, I do remember that.
Tupac hologram.
Didn't they also do Michael Jackson that same year?
I don't know, but I was a kid. I was not even like, what's Coachella?
No, it was not that long ago, was it?
Okay, it was 2012.
Okay, it
I
was
was like,
definitely a while ago.
I was sophomore year of college, and I still have not known. That's like good. I just learned about freshman year as I learned about EDM. So what is this? I'm like, what is this? I just know like J. Cole coming into college, and when I was 2011, J. Cole were coming in, and then what is this? Just beats. I was like, I have no idea. I was super sheltered when it came to music. I just knew the rock and roll from my dad, nice little Motown from my mom, and sprinkle some 90s hip hop and a little bit more as with my brothers. And when it came to what the heck's EDM, like, yeah, it was a thing. And then everyone's like, oh, Tupac holograms, let's Coachella. Then this is all just spiral. Oh my God. I'm like, that's so cool. So yeah, once I saw that, I was like, I gotta go to Coachella.
But they didn't do anything afterwards, right? With holograms, like they
Mm-mm.
figured it
I
out
don't
back in
think they did.
2012, and they haven't touched it since.
That was crazy. What was it? No, but they were big on art, sculptures, and you go there for like the experience of the art. I think 2014, 2015, they had the Spaceman, and then
Oh
every
yeah.
year, I think that was when Ellie went, and then he was telling me that it was standing straight up. Day two was like on a 45 slant. I was like, he was weird. And then like on the third or final day, it was like flighting, like it was like up.
Was it just a
Like
balloon?
yeah, it was like a very big like spaceman. Like, but they sometimes they do some cool stuff. Like every day they would change the art, or sometimes it would just stay. Like I think one year was a butterfly. It was like one in a cocoon, and then you can see it like slowly opening, and then the third day was like a butterfly.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah,
I mean, the only time I've been down there is for Stagecoach, and they definitely don't have those things.
yeah. You are a country guy, so that's your cup of tea right there.
Oh yeah,
Um,
just some boots, like everything's no frills. There's yeah, not everyone's not coming in fancy outfits really. Like yeah, you're just bringing your own chair, maybe sneaking in a couple of beers, but outside that, like you're just there kicking it.
I just can't do country, man. I just can't. The vibes I can go with, but the music, I just can't. Like by vibes, I just mean like, let's just hang out, chill, and drink some beers, or just and just hang out and have a good time. But the music makes me
So
want
the
to get up from that
ambiance that it
chair.
comes with,
Yes.
you got to give it a try.
We'll see what happens. That's gonna be a very hard. If you get me into country, that is definitely like an achievement for you.
Kane Brown, September man.
What is that in Seattle?
Yes.
You're gonna
Yes.
are you going solo? Or are you gonna bring
No, I'll fly your ass up here.
sorry, I got work. I can't do it.
Oh.
All right. All right, dude. Let's do our sync. What's up with how was it a hectic week of work for you? What's up?
Oh man. Doing some like super interesting growth hack stuff.
Hmm.
Trying to really think out of the box on things. Like when you're thinking of like a lot of these startups, they always do. I mean, like you think of Airbnb, they automated the ability for a host to cross post to Craigslist back in the day.
Hmm.
Or if you think of what are some of the other like infamous ones? Like this, they all have like their own little like thing that helped them like grow and explode. Dropbox with their space race amongst all the universities for free like storage, things like that. So for us right now, we're trying to figure out what that would look like for us, where some of the ideas you're kind of like, that doesn't, I don't know if that'll work. But like that's also part of the piece you got to lean into because like it's so out there that like when someone presents an idea initially, you're kind of like, that sounds kind of crazy. But if it hits, then all of a sudden you like look back on it. And it's
Like
like
a
one of those
genius.
stories.
I'm a
Yeah, it's
genius,
one of
right?
those genius things. So I've been just researching and learning a bunch of stuff. Like when we launch it, maybe we'll talk about it later, but like the let's just say that a lot of the skill sets that I have in the past are like starting to come back. Like it, it's hard to be like detailed on it. You know what I mean?
Hmm. Dude,
But
so
no,
like,
like go ahead.
no, you go ahead, finish up.
Oh, I was just gonna say it's exciting to be working on different things like that where it's stressful because there's like a really short time to like learn what you need to learn, but the type of work is always different and like you just get to try kind of crazy ideas, right? You're like, I think this might work. And
He's gonna go for it.
yeah, it's so different than like I think a lot of times we talk and we're like sitting here like thinking about different things, but we just like talk about it in theory. This one's just like, is it good enough to test? Yeah, go test it. And you're like, oh,
Yeah.
okay.
All right, we're good.
Yeah.
It's
But what about you? What about your side?
so I think everything you said kind of sounds weird, but like this week was like a heavy emotional week. Um, so I'm not gonna tell which homie because you might know, but yeah, one of my homies said like, yeah, he got fired,
Yikes.
and the first thing he did was saying I'm sorry. I'm like, what? Like, what? Why?
Yeah.
And then this was a Monday, Tuesday. He's like, "Hey, I need everyone. I need you group chat to everybody. We need an emergency FaceTime." Okay. I was like, all right, what's up? And I was pooping at the time, so it's like, all right, this must be an emergency. So I'm like, all right, we're going in. What is my best friend? What are you doing?
Yeah.
And then he's like, yeah, I'm sorry. And then he told me the news, and I was like, why are you saying sorry? And then I was like, he was like, yeah, I just been a lot of work, not time with the homies. And I was like, holy crap. And I started thinking about my job. And then how many times like, all right, cool. Like I know we're all on our grind, we're all understanding, like we're all supportive of each other. But I was like, oh
Yeah.
crap, okay. And then I started thinking about my job, like, okay, my significant other, am I giving her enough time? Just even time with the homies? Am I checking in with people as much as I should? So a sense of like one, am my career is okay? Like, am I giving enough time? Is my career taking too much of my time? And then two, I set up even thinking about like how would I want to go if I did go, making sure the relationships I have are fulfilled, and one is also financially, am will I be okay for with my family and loved ones when if I go? So all this stuff just hit me. And on top of this stupid Instagram, scrolling through and you have those thinking like snippets and those things were going at me. But I just want to revert back on what you said because I started thinking about it like, oh crap, on my job, and then kind of separating truth and state and making sure, am I really going to keep pursuing this profession when it's not leading my life path? And this is when I was reading class, reading right now the cash flow quadrant, and I was like, holy crap. Like this is it was a crazy nuggets of just self-reflection. But even for you was trying to get back, we're getting back into podcasting. This is something I've created a podcast in 2018 to 2020. And I was like, all right, maybe I should start back the blog, you know what I mean? And everything you kind of learn back, you're just let's you have to take off the dust and get back into it to help like build beyond of what your profession is. And yeah, it was just like a weird thing when you said that. Is yeah, it's super cool about fiddling with like these old skill sets that we had and shaking off the dust. And that's what right now for me, it's after all those stuff that hits, okay, what's kind of shaking off the dust. So that was interesting. So we can hit on that. But yeah, dude, it was crazy.
I guess the first thing to hit on is like your buddy that, just got let go. Did he see it coming?
No, it was unexpected.
Okay. So it's like very aligned with a lot of the stuff that we've been seeing in the news.
Yeah, it was like what a lot of tech companies letting off a lot of goes and just Silicon Valley in itself. So it's like yeah, it's an interesting one.
Yeah, I don't know if it was on my TikTok, but I definitely went on a rant about that the other day. Like, I mean, I'm like, obviously I'm in tech. I work for a startup. We're like Series A funded, right? And I think from a headline standpoint, that sounds all fancy and stuff, but that also means that we have a really short runway, right?
Yeah.
Like anytime anything could happen. And I don't know. I mean, I hope your buddy's good, but at the same time, it's like some people sometimes they get a little too comfortable, right? Like they're like, it can't happen to me. And I'm like, shit could always happen.
No, he's chilling. I think it's more of the identity crisis.
Like his identity was tied to work.
Yeah. And that's made me think too, is like, crap, if I leave right now, because I used to be very comfortable of like, oh, if I'm so like multifaceted, but
Yeah.
during 2020, I was like, all right, I'm zooming in on my profession, which I'm an athletic trainer. And now I'm like, is this now my identity? And to me, it's like, did I lose touch of that, of like of who I am versus like that path that I'm okay of interchanging of professions and I still can keep on, or am I stuck on now tangling the profession and the path? Last time we talked in 2020. So yeah, this week's been a heavy week.
Yeah. The part about like tying a profession to an individual's worth. So I got laid off back in maybe like 2018.
Mm-hmm.
And like I saw it coming because we had like a change of management and the person that was in charge was not the biggest fan of Dick Ayala. And so when that got announced, I was like, ooh, the timer's ticking. But even though I like saw it coming, and I think it was like cool because you're like, ooh, fun employment. Like I get maybe some severance. I have my health insurance for like 2 months. Then like that like I don't know, that high kind of goes away.
You're like, oh,
and I mean, you knew me in college. Like titles was everything for my worth.
yeah, you're scumbag college. Scumbag
Some may
Nick.
say. Some may say.
No, I said it. It's on the podcast. Scumbag. Back then, scumbag Nick. I love you. I love you now though. So we're good.
Yeah. But like so after that kind of like fizzled down, dude, I was lost for a while.
Mm-hmm.
Like I remember like even trying to figure out how I would introduce myself and like, oh, like when you meet someone new, like how do you introduce yourself? Or when they ask, what do you do? And you're like, oh, I'm unemployed. And it's like, there's this weird thing about like saying that because it's like so close to the identity.
Yeah. Like, oh, who am I?
Oh yeah, dude. And I mean, it's good that your buddy reached out to y'all. Like if it wasn't for the friends that I had, like even you, right? Like that's when I think we started to actually get like rekindle our relationship again.
Yeah.
Was after Scumbag Nick had to like reflect on what actually mattered, I think a little bit more. I think now it's like I look at work and the identity of work a little bit differently than when I did back then. But yeah, dude, I can imagine like what they're definitely going through.
Yeah.
It takes a second, and it's hard even when your friends are like, no, it's good, or like you're still gonna be fine, or things like that. It's like the first cut's always the deepest, you know.
Yeah. So it was funny because I know we always make fun of it. Like in tech, see, you worked your way up to six-figure salary, and I'm here just still grinding away, right? Like five figures. And we always said like the tech boom and bust, like it's always an ebb and flow.
Yep.
Both in athletic, it's like super steady, but super like very minimal growth in the sense in the financial field, like for salary. And it's like I still can't believe during like COVID, I still had a job. You know what I mean? Like there's some way
Hmm.
somehow within athletics, I still had a job, which is crazy. And like for me, it's like in my own little shadow or my own little like world where I'm just like, oh crap, I didn't even know like Facebook or LinkedIn or any other big tech laid off employees because I just never, I'm not in like that world, but I'm just here just chugging along still because it's super different. And like that mindset shift was like what made me question it right now is like, is this path right? Is this what is my profession right now? Is it a career or a job? And how am I treating it? And I feel like it's two different things.
And double click on that.
So like career, I feel like if you're in a career, you're kind of just working. All right, what's the next step? What's the next step? What's the next step?
Hmm.
For a job, it's get your money, get out. But I don't want to say that and like, oh, I'm just gonna just do the bare minimum. No, I'm a very OCD and very A type, and I love to do a great job. Like I will continue growing myself and keep on pushing myself on being the best I can be within my profession, but in the sense of like, what's the projects I need to get done to get the next level, to get to the next like, to get to the next like status of my like path, quote unquote. So it's different. Like right now, it's like again, I think I keep fiddling with my mind of like I wanted to go to the MLS,
Hmm.
which right now I'm working with collegiate soccer and like okay, next step is either higher Power Five or um working to transition to pros outside of college. But I'm just like as of right now, I'm chilling. You know, I'm good where I'm at. My time balance is really well. Like granted, like there's some parts of like 6 months of the year, I'm 6 to 7 months of the year, I'm like full tilt. But the other half, I'm like just chilling.
Do you think
And
there's a difference between career versus job and that identity piece?
yeah, I think so. Because if you're in the career, you're so into it. Job is just like, okay, this is how I get my money to fund like another. So I'm gonna use it another creative friend, for example. He just
Hmm.
gets he's a UX UI designer, right? Did I say it right? I'm the front end.
Yeah, yeah. UX
Um,
UI, UI
hey man,
UX.
something like that.
Yeah.
Um, but he just says, hey, I just do my job. I do really good at my job, but I'm not gonna put anything forward. I get my paycheck. I'm gonna fund it towards my other hobbies and my other careers and my other side gigs and go from there. Sometimes just for fun. I'm a perfectly fine. I'm zero debted. Like I'm nothing. I owe nothing. I'm chilling. And he's like, yeah, I'm comfortable. But in the sense for me, the way I reason like that is that if I spend like let's just say 3 hours thinking about a project I can do for work, right?
Hmm.
It's like, oh my god, like I revamp something. There's 2 hours away that I'm not using towards to building something for myself,
Oh
like this
yeah. I
podcast.
mean, I think that's something you and I have
Not,
definitely struggled
you know,
with a lot.
yeah, or like putting back efforts to creating a side gig or even a passion project. Dude, I got into Magic the Gathering. Dude, it's freaking so much fun. I'm not gonna lie. Like, holy crap, I'm learning out.
It's all because we went to that one place up in Seattle.
Yeah, that. Oh my god, dude. I was like, all right. And my brother plays it heavily, so he's teaching me like, this is such a cool game. And I got the app, and then it was just like, oh, good. I was playing it. I was playing it this morning too. Another reason why I was late to this podcast. So blame Magic for that.
We were late because you were playing Magic.
A little bit, and I had to set up my lights. So we're good. Mainly
Oh my
Magic,
goodness.
but it's like that stuff. It's that if I just say, hey, like I still put in the like put in quality work until my boss says, Justin, I need you to work for something. I need you to do this project. Outside of my
Yeah.
responsibilities assigned, my mind's off of work, and that's how I'm going to treat it as a job because I need to start building. And this comes back down to like my homies and like all that life stuff is like in reading the cash flow quadrant, it was like I'm only one source of income right now, and I lost the seconds. And I yes, I do some side gigs. I made an LLC on doing stuff in athletic training, getting some extra cash flow in. But in the sense of like creative side hustles, I have not had. And I think out of 3 years of going full tilt into my then profession and like career, I feel comfortable right now where I'm at to step back and then put my time and energy towards like this, something different, and still know that I'm okay. So that was a very like trying like piece this week. Was like, how am I going to separate even more? How can I make sure I have my mental stuff and not just say like so much into work where I just feel like resentment.
Mhm.
So yeah, that was my week in a nutshell.
But I think you're touching on a really, really important part. And I would, I'm going to make like a broad stroke assumption that this happens a lot more with people that are younger in their air quote career, right?
Hmm.
When, so I actually polled on my LinkedIn the other day, when you're not working, do you have emails push notification to your personal phone, right? From work. And it was coming from a place of really, are you always on call for work? Which then kind of almost creates this trade off of the ability to pursue other things outside of work.
Hmm.
Or do you turn it off and actually segment that off? I think a part of it is the type of career choice, right? Like if you're working a 9 to 5 government job, like you're once 5 o'clock hits, maybe you're not even allowed to even bring your laptop outside of the facility, depending what you're doing. So like some jobs, the nature of the job will create that segmentation for you. But I think like our jobs, there's always something that could be worked on, right? It may be working on the weekend will give us a better jump on Monday. Or, even back when I was doing consulting, like there's always deliverables to work on. And like there's
Yeah.
some like stuff where you're like, no, this needs to be there to the client like first thing Monday Eastern time. And you're like, that means I'm working all day Sunday. Like, like the
Wow.
only way to hit that deadline is that.
I think what was it for me was like just working 24/7. So in season, like just a little glimpse of what athletic training is. It's not just people like handing water bottles and taping athletes. It's like if an injured athlete, you're doing like the first like rehabs if it's not catastrophic, and how your structure is at the university or or organization that you're with, like kind of doing the basic rehabs. Like again, you have a lot of regular outs like ankle sprain and you're rehabbing that. If if it's kind of catastrophic, then you're working with like a surgery, you're working with the doctor and you're working with like the physical therapist. You're kind of coordinating all this, and on top of that with the athlete, and you're dealing with like the mental health of the athlete, because once you go in an injury, they go to a dark place. Like it's bad. I seen it. Like it's bad.
Mm,
And I said I seen it. I did say that. Just
yeah. Yeah.
but yeah, I see it and it's crazy. And you just balance a lot, like sometimes you're on call, sometimes a kid like waking up sick and you're like, hey, what do I do? And you're like, hey, go to the ER, or just like, sometimes they just you're kind of like that go to like, what do I do person. And at first in my first like part of the career, I was like on it, but now it's like I gotta push it off. But in the sense of like, hey, if it's like you just need something for tomorrow, just text me so I know about it. If I don't respond, it is what it is. If it's an emergency, like put like urgent, text me or call. And even separating like I had a work laptop and I never used my work laptop. I just put everything I worked on was like just on one laptop. Like, all right, done, 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 all software based stuff. And then I was like, all right, I got to separate everything. And then everything has to be on one. And I leave my work laptop at work. But it makes me more, was it concentrated, because if I don't finish the stuff at work, I'll be behind. And it creates that like internal stressor, like I gotta get this stuff done, or I have to stay an extra hour so I know my time at home is my time. So yeah, like when I it's weird now because when I do have like, okay, let's get some work done, I switch over to open up my personal laptop and I'm like, oh, this is like a switch. Like this is like a different mind switch as well. Instead of always seeing the same thing. And you see the small little stuff on your screens where you're just like, oh crap, I have to work. Like I see this thing, I have to get it done. Like, no, you don't. Like it'll get done. As long as your emergency day, like your daily must tasks are done, the long deliverables can wait. But you gotta make sure, like for me, it was either pushing them off for the summer when it's like due in for the next following year, or I can have some time from where I can work at it piece by piece at work, but not work at it at home. So like this week and last week is when I started doing the laptop switch. This week was all the mental thing. So it kind of just started accidentally cascading to like, oh, I'm already on this track, and this is like kind of showing me like, oh, you're already like on there. So like make sure you keep up.
How do you, okay, so you were talking about how you kind of separate, right? Work and
Mm-hmm.
play based off your laptops. And I do that same thing too. My personal laptop, nothing work related is logged in there. How do you determine, like, let's say you got a message on your phone or something like that, and you don't even have your work laptop with you? How do you determine what needs to actually be done to break that separation? And then what can actually wait till, after the weekend?
So the things that need to get done emergency wise are mostly health stuff. It's just like an athlete's just like feeling really sick, and then you kind of just triage it and give them your notes and your process. Like, hey, just go to not go to ER, just go to like, or hey, this can wait. This might be. And you give your advice. You give your like 2 cents.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but when it comes to like software stuff, for me, there's nothing really sense in like I need to get done in emergency unless like it's a basic Microsoft or Word document I need to get done, which I could just log into my email, get it done, and download it, and then ship it off to my work email. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So like, it's nothing sense of like has to get done heavy software base, but like it'll be like, hey, can you double check this document? And it happens very rare that I need it. And if I really, really am in a pinch, I do have my Notion where I have all my stuff bookmarked. Like I try to get off my bookmarks off of my personal one, because my Google's synced right now. So right now I just kind of have my all my tabs and like my emergency clicks on my Notion, and I don't even open up my like dashboard for work. It just is all my favorites, but I don't open it. I have all my running tasks. I have all my links, but none of my favorite links are linked up to like my my taskbar in my Chrome. So if I do need a pinch and I need to add this emergency note in and document everything, I can at least access that as needed. But it's a conscious effort, honestly. I can't check it. I can't even check my dash. I can't open it right now. Only go on my life dashboard and that's it. How about you? How do you try to separate it? Because you have for a startup, you wear many hats. So how do you kind of get that going if you can?
Yeah, I think so. Even though, so my personal device, I don't have the push notifications on. I have access
Mm-hmm.
to maybe like my email and Slack. I think those are probably the two things that I have set up on my phone. So I think in the same way that, how there's like the three tap like check when you leave the house for like keys,
Yeah.
wallet, phone.
You're like,
So
okay, we're good.
yeah, exactly. So
You
I
look
have
up, you're like,
that.
I'm good. I'm good.
Every person does this. Like if you don't, you do. Um,
You
but
just gotta realize it, and you're like, oh crap, I do it.
yeah. So I kind of have the same thing when I'm like checking my apps, right? There's like a sequence of apps. So all my push, like the only thing that I have push notifications on is maybe like Uber Eats, right? And maybe Maps, because obviously that's important when I'm driving. But like in terms of like the social apps, I think there's kind of like a list that I'll open to pull to refresh.
Hmm.
And so when I am going through the apps, like my work Slack and my work email are in that pull to refresh sequence. Maybe not the best choice, but it does like it's more like I'm calling to see if something's happening versus
Yeah,
they're calling me right with a push notification.
yeah. You could be
Um,
more proactive versus reactive, and you can decide instead of just feeling like that little shock of like stress
well,
of like, oh crap, something's happening. I gotta get it done.
yeah, like if you have the push notification on and just the fact that like your phone goes off, you're gonna look at it and
Hmm.
then you see that it's work related, you may not actually be able to read it till you open it. So you're gonna like spike yourself with a little bit of dose of anxiety.
Hmm.
And maybe you were like in the middle of something super important, like we going back to like being with your friends, being with your significant other, being with family, right? Like you don't need that during that moment, right? So I rather like be able to check on it. But then if I see something and it's like an FYI email, I'm like, okay, cool. Like I don't need to do anything. It's kind of like maybe like a text message, right? Like, is this text message important to respond to now, or can it wait till later?
Yeah.
And I kind of look at that for a number of the messages that I get to separate those two. If it's something that's really big, like really, really big, I think most of the time by Friday, I know that like the weekend is going to be busy. Like Silicon Valley Bank collapsing, it was a busy weekend. But like, but also most of the
I didn't
United
even know
States knew
about that
about
till you
that.
told me, and I live in the Silicon Valley, so I'm just like, yeah, I don't
In the world of
know.
startup, in the world of startup, that was massive. So, like, things like that, you definitely know when like there's something on fire and you're like, okay, like you're gonna need to do something. But outside that, I think like for the most part, I'm able to segment it out. The busy time is usually just because I'm like working on the house or something, right? Like like on the weekend, it
With
becomes
lack
like
of.
errands time, or like, I forgot to make my I forgot to make my dog, Sadie's vet appointment for the past like month, but they're also not
What
open
the
on the
fuck?
weekends. So
I'm just kidding. You're great. I was about to say
it's just a
your
balancing thing.
her yearly checkup.
She gets her yearly checkups. It's just like there's like something she needs to get checked out on her, and I'm just like, haven't made an appointment yet. And like the one time I did call, they were busy. Like
Get
I
on
think
that,
that's
man.
one thing that most pet owners that I know,
Hmm.
vets are so busy, man. Like when I first moved up here to Seattle,
Hmm.
to find a vet that was even accepting new patients was actually really, really difficult. Like
Really?
I had to call a number of them all in the area, and where I was living at the time, the nearest one I think was still 25 minutes away. And then I had to redo that because like when I moved to where I'm at now, that new place is now 45 minutes away from where I'm at. And so I was like, that I can't stay with them, even though like I finally got my foot in the door. So I had to like reshop. And there's like this is local vets, this is VCA, like chain vets, like checking all of them. The local ones, either they didn't like pick up or they were just busy. And so I think the vet that I go to now, it's probably like 15, 20 minutes away from here. But getting an appointment from them, the last time I called them, they were still 2 months out for a booking unless it's an emergency. And they're like, and if it's an emergency, go to a pet hospital in the emergency. And you're like, yeah. Well, I think
Yeah.
like the vet world, people are not paying attention to. There's definitely opportunity in that area.
Dude, I want to click on that one real quick. So with vets and everything else, I feel like nowadays I saw this again, another Instagram small snippet was like trade work was decreasing.
What do you mean decreasing?
Just like people going in for trade, like electricians, you
Oh
know,
yeah.
you know what I mean? So even with vets and dentistry, like I'm just even just analyzing like dentist, like I don't hear many people say that anymore. Like I want to do X. I just always hear like either in tech or something else, but it's either like the comments like pre-law, doctor, but those small little like fields of trade is like actually pretty lucrative if you kind of go in there just because of just definitely side note, but that was just crazy. Like when you said vet, I was like, dang, like I don't hear a lot of people want to be dentists. Maybe there is a good amount, but like in my friend group, it was either tech, like pre-med, nursing. It was very small. Like I met one person out of like my college till now that said I want to be a dentist.
I think trade schools in general, right? Like society itself for a long time looked down on those trades.
Mm-hmm.
And so you were kind of socially incentivized to go to college, get a job, try to be white collar, right? Like that's something for a while our parents would actually like brag about.
Mm-hmm.
I think the result of that, like plumbers, electricians, like this the professions that actually make things work, there's not a lot of them. There's a shortage of them. And they're making some really good coin right now.
Even like barbers too, like going off trade or like yes, like you for dentistry and like vet you heavy duty school, like master's higher level, second like higher level education, but still it's a very trick to the trade. Like not a lot. It's it's funny because like even some of the working with some seniors like who are going to go out to the workforce, like comms business looking for job in tech, and there's hiring freeze. It's like I can't even get a job, you know.
Hmm.
And he was talking about how we just stumbled upon just being like Chat GDP when that came out and just being AI stuff. It's like it is interesting going to see if now that white collar job going to be taken over by machines, and those blue collar jobs are now going to be your premium.
Ooh, okay. I have thoughts on that part. I definitely have thoughts on that part. Okay, so
But that's just
like
interesting, like holy crap.
I use ChatGPT probably on a daily basis at this point. Like prepping for this like podcast, I was using it. Like that Coachella summary was made by ChatGPT. I'm telling you that right now. Like
disclaimer, you sack. I thought those were personal thoughts. Out here telling everything out here just experience of my life, and out here, yeah, I got my idea from ChatGPT. Thanks.
but it's not only that. Like I don't see it as a replacement. I see it as as like an assistant, right? So like I think even when I was at Konica Minolta, right. So like my past job, I was working for a legacy printing company in their innovation department. And this was back in 2000 and like 2017, 2018. And like the goal is to basically like find a new industry for that company to go into, right? So we're like the internal incubator or moonshot factory for that company. And there's always this like notion that like new technology is going to like come in and remove a bunch of jobs. But I think time and time again, we've seen technology come up and supplement a portion of the work only to make that one individual more efficient. Right. So like Microsoft Word didn't destroy the entire industry of people that were writing on typewriters. Right. Like it's a different way. People became more efficient. I mean, now there's AI that writes that for you, but like it's just like
that could do digitally like Photoshop like illustrations and create like a whole entire website. I've not played with it, but I'm just keep seeing it. It's like it took over your customer service. It could take over customer service Q&A. Like it has the capabilities of just doing that. You answer a question and it does like it just feels like one of those automated chats you could do in any other questionnaire box. That's what I'm thinking at too. It's like those small little things that you think is like, oh, like you kind of go in industry stuff.
I think it's going to create a gap between like the knowledge workers that can keep up, learn with it, and utilize it. But it's going to be a very similar gap to like, right? Like even our parents' generation, if they came in and did some of the stuff that we do today, they're going to be like, oh my gosh, this technology has changed. Like we did things differently. We were using filing cabinets instead of like online folders, right? Like there's a difference of, you know, like they're printing everything. They're highlighting things. Like that's just not the way the business is today. I think this is just that next iteration where it's accelerating pretty quickly. Is that generation is going to see all of this happen in their lifetime though. Right. So like there was already like one or two jumps that they had to make that, especially like you were saying, they're trying to enter the workforce. There's a lot that I think could go into like reskilling individuals if they want to be reskilled.
So adding on to that then, how for me it's like hard to stay on. Like yes, I probably morning brew and just get the daily news. What is your kind of daily news or like ways to stay on top of this new and upcoming like software to implement to make sure you're ahead of the game?
So I'll split that answer up into two different.
You consume knowledge like no other. Like one of my homies, I actually just consume like in 5 minutes and feel like you could talk like you're a damn expert, which is kind of annoying but cool at the same time.
So there's two ways, right? I could think about it from like how I would or how I do recommend like my dad to stay up to date versus like how I stay up to date.
Okay.
How I stay up to date, I think maybe at least an hour to 2 hours every day. I'm either reading newsletters that is doing some of the synopsis work for me. I'm watching a subset of like YouTubers or podcasts. I do listen to them at anywhere between 2 to 3x speed. So that helps the amount of content that I could take in. And I think lastly, it's your social circle, right? Like if you're hanging out with individuals that are also kind of looking in different areas, either in their industry or at the tech sector as a whole or the economy as a whole, right? Like we we have our buddies that's like, oh, this is a financial question. I don't know anything about the banking system, but I know somebody,
Yeah.
right? Just the ability of having that one piece of I know somebody makes all the world of a difference, because an individual that doesn't know somebody is going to either be overwhelmed trying to research it themselves. They're going to successfully maybe learn it by themselves, or they're just going to ignore that topic altogether.
Yeah, I can agree with that one. So I'm gonna just go off a quick side note was when I did my creative podcast, um, my photography skills and knowledge and within like social media, like during the time apparently has changed now over the last 3 years, was excelled just because of the people you talk to.
Mm-hmm.
And it was crazy. So yeah, I agree to that one. It's who you know. Sorry, I got nothing to provide right now besides just my emotional insight.
I mean, it's one of the hardest things that I've had to struggle with since moving up to Seattle, right? I moved up here
Yeah.
2 years ago with basically no network.
Hmm.
And so a lot of the people that I used to hang out with and have those conversations with to accelerate that learning kind of had to start from zero, right? And maybe it's just the season that I'm at. I'm a little bit older. Like I'm the focus isn't going out on a Friday night. The focus isn't like doing crazy stuff, right? It's just more the ability to find a social circle that can like mentally stimulate like my brain with like whatever we're talking about is something that I think is like probably one of the most desired things that I'm looking for in like a friend group.
Yeah.
And it doesn't have to be about things like AI or tech, right? It's like you, every time you talk about things in the health realm, it's super interesting, right? Because like your stuff. It's I mean, yeah, sure, I could YouTube it, but why would I YouTube something that you have 10 to 12 years of experience on and can answer with more detail, more pointed answers because you know what questions to ask before you answer? Like
Mhm.
you can't really replace that. Maybe chat GPT can in the future, but you know, like
It might, dude. It helped me do like a little report on it. Like, hey, I need a quick summary on this stuff, and it did a great job.
so maybe it's coming, right? So I'll have my own little Justin bot over here to help me with like, oh, my neck hurts. Um but no, I do think that like having individuals that they got their niche and you talk about it. I mean, there's that like quote that like different levels of society talk about different things, right? There's those who talk about other people. There's those that like do you know what I'm talking about? What that quote is? I
Yeah.
don't remember what it is.
So
I mean, I found the quote. I could say the
I
quote.
just read the quote. Read the quote.
So it's great minds discuss ideas, average minds
Oh, okay.
discuss events, small minds discuss people.
Mm,
And so I don't think it's like I think it genuinely also comes to like what an individual wants to talk about, but talking about those like ideas and like talking about AI and stuff like that, like what is going on in the industry, that's an event. Okay. So that's like average minded. But then talking about like what you could do with AI, that's like idea minded. And then like if you really, really care about it, maybe you could talk about like the founder of AI, like open AI and or the current CEO, right? Like, yeah, we could talk about him, but like doesn't I mean maybe it's cool, maybe it matters. I mean, the dude's a genius, yeah, sure. But like it's almost like being focused on like what Elon's doing versus like what Tesla's doing versus like how it's changing the industry, right?
yeah.
I think there's different layers that come for each of those types of discussions.
Yeah. Crap. It always is. I think so. Reverting back, like you started with zero in your circle, and I feel like everyone in the Bay Area, for me, it's like they left, and
Mm-hmm.
I'm still here. So that's what made me feel like having conversations like these, like, was harder because I only have such a small niche in here that I can have these conversations with and just be that full vulnerable. Like we could just talk shop and be like, all right, our ideas aren't silly, but let's break them down if they're even feasible, versus just saying, oh, you're knocked out. Like, yeah, this is bad. Like, stop, not even talk about it, or just talk about going out, Like, they're still here, but the number has dropped.
Right.
So, and it's life. We're all busy. So, like, even finding time to do this was like, hey, we got to schedule like a 2 week out. We can have so we can figure out the next one, So it's like, oh, crud, before we could start talking about it. So, yeah, it just that's different. So, like, I 100% agree with that quote. But now it's like, am I getting that fulfillment? Because again, we're both in the sense of like zero or like a low percentage of like that circle now.
I mean, us, even before like recording this stuff, the fact that
Oh
we
yeah.
met up once a week made a huge difference because we can
Yeah.
talk about random things that we have on our minds, right? Like we're not catching up to gossip.
Yeah.
Like
And
that's not.
so the backstory of this podcast then was was it 12-week year, and we did our sync meetings of making sure we stayed on our goals, and then we became on diverging to like hours on end talks, even though we're scheduled for a 30-minute check-in for like accountability buddy. And yeah, now it's here. So that quick backstory of how this happened was that weekly meeting. But yeah, dude, with that mind shift change did make me feel like I'm on it. Like I was telling you 2022 was like very complacent year, probably out of my goals. I only like achieved one. And for me, it was like I got to do a change. I got to get something done. And just having that weekly meeting, like yes, I concise the goal. So 12-week years, pretty much concising what we want to do in 1 year to 12 weeks.
Mhm.
But I think the biggest piece on making sure I got those was because of these meetings. So yes,
Yeah, as an accountability partner, right?
yeah,
Like you did way better in your 12-week year than I did. And dude, it sucked coming to those meetings and being like, but because we have it weekly, it also gives me a week to kind of like redeem myself.
hmm
I think what ends up happening if you meet with like other friends on like a quarterly basis is you do nothing for 3 months, you sync up, you realize you like didn't meet
did
what you wanted to
nothing.
try to do. Yeah. And then you're like, I'll talk to you in like 3 more months when I decide to still not do anything. Now you like blew an entire half year, right? That's 6 months that
hmm
you just like blew versus like if we're meeting up every single week and I didn't move the needle, like every week I'm feeling that like eek, Jo killed it this past week. I didn't do nothing. And then it happens again and it happens again, right? And
Yeah,
I think also there's a social pressure too. It's like if I'm not delivering and he's delivering every time, like do I have the worth to still be meeting with him? Right? Like I don't know. It's just another piece on there. It's just like I gotta deliver my half, or
hmm
else. I mean, I think this is what it ultimately comes down to. I, for the most part, only take the advice of individuals that like walk the walk, right? And so if I'm not coming to those meetings doing what I said I'm going to do, I'm a hypocrite. And in the same way that like we're providing advice to each other, things like that, like if I'm not walking the walk, my advice should mean basically nothing. Like if I was sitting in your shoes. And so
yeah,
like why would I ever be in that situation like that? Like with you. Like that's horrible. It's terrible. I would have cut me out of your social circle.
yeah, better. And then it goes ebb and flow. Like again, if you need those where you're just kind of complacent. Like for me, like this week, I'm hitting two out of my three goals, and we could just talk about like, hey, how can we fix that, or we have to cut something off. Do you have too much to optimize these other two? So yeah, like, and we asked those challenging questions like, what would we have to get different that you probably haven't sparked? So it's like, okay, hey, what time frame wise do you need to cut something out to focus on one so it could be the greater good
Mm-hmm.
for the long run, or can you keep sustaining, or what do you got to get changed? So it's like, but yeah, walking the walk is for sure an important thing because like if you don't, it's like one of those things you're gonna listen to a guy who has you gonna listen to a person who's talking about how to make $1 million when they don't have $1 million. It's like,
Yeah.
really? Like you gonna tell me how to live? Like, or like talking about, oh, you should, how this is how you should run your business when you never ran a business. I'm like, okay, I'm not gonna. You can say it, but I'm not gonna listen to it. It might be valid advice, but is it? I'm good, respectfully.
No, absolutely. There was so I was talking to someone that was like trying to re-enter the workforce. And I was like, okay, maybe like I mean, you have like 40 years of experience. Like this was a little bit, like a senior. And I was like, okay, you can like maybe do like some coaching of some sort. I was like, what are you good at? And they're like, well, I just want to help younger individuals kind of like not make mistakes in life so that they can be successful. And I was like, what does that mean? And they're like, well, there's like things I wouldn't do or things that I would do. Like maybe I should go to college or maybe I should focus financially on like certain things or save more or things like that. And I was like, why would somebody want your advice for that? I was like, would you say that you've achieved a lot? And they're like, well, like there's a lot of things that like I would have done differently. And I was like, okay. I was like, now think of yourself in the market. There's two individuals, you or someone that has, I don't know, built $1 million company. The advice and blueprints are going to be very different from both individuals. One is going to be hypothetical and the other one is going to be very tactical around like, look, I made this mistake getting to this part. That's something like I can actually validate does not actually matter. Right. And it's like someone that wants to start a business versus someone that has at least tried to start a business is still a big difference in the advice that they're going to give versus like obviously if someone's successful with the business, that's the next level. But I think those are even different skill sets, right? Like I've started a number of LLCs. If you ever ask me, I'm like, look, don't spend $500 on Rocket Lawyer. You could do it for $75 in 4 steps.
Yeah,
right?
it's done.
Like, yeah.
Advice I
have I started
got from you?
haven't started a multi-million-dollar business, but I've like started a business and I know the ins and outs where that is going to be different advice than someone's like, well, you know, maybe if I start a business, you should like start an LLC with like, you know, the state of California. And you're like, thank you.
Yeah, like yeah, that's all right.
Right.
Like, even then even is it worth it starting a business if you're not already kind of bringing in the revenue to pay off like just that end of the year fees? You know what I mean? It's like, can you even make up that? Like, is it even worth it if you're just doing like a little by little? But if you're breaking even, then is it even worth it? Then you can give that advice as well because you know already you created it, you know?
No, but Jo, all you have to do is just listen to TikTokers and write off your G Wagon because it weighs a lot. And like just make an LLC and you too can have a G Wagon. Yeah,
Fine. Just
because you write it off, it's free.
no
You didn't know that?
justification, you know? No, I did not know that.
It's totally free. Like it doesn't exist anymore. You're good. That's the key to everything is just write it off and it's like the money disappeared.
Yeah, those ones tick me off sometimes because it just feels like write it off, but like the process of creating one, like for me when I made it, took 3 months to actually get the number, and then you have to do the IT like the TIN number to get the IRS, and then you have to make sure like your books are good, and even keeping up with your books is like all right, your mileage and these small little things. Like I know, so colleague who one of the colleague coaches like has a business but doesn't know how to write things off or how to like keep the books, and like yes we could tell this stuff, they could hear it and tell it, but where's the how, where's the why? Like this is how you do it, this is why you do it. So like for us, like when we came over, like what was it, I did write off our dinner because we were tactically talking about business strategy. We're
Mm-hmm.
talking about business development. How can we market better? How can you create kind of this as a joint kind of branding type of thing? You know, and then you're like, holy crap, then it valid, not just say write it off because I'm gonna have a dinner. Like, no, like there has to be substance to it.
Also, we have a professional CPA that does this stuff for
Yes,
us, right? Like
correct.
it's not
And
us
then
just making it
validate
up and making assumptions. Like there's a professional that we work
like, hey,
with, right?
is this a valid thing? Yes,
Oh
correct.
yeah,
Yeah,
we
100%
aren't
right.
using TurboTax's free filing for this
No,
stuff.
I actually
Like,
pay for people that do this.
but the return on that is way greater than what you're saving. Well, first of all, doing TurboTax by your time, like by yourself, there's a time investment. Then there's the potential lack of knowledge of what you're actually doing. So there's like a higher chance of messing up.
Yeah, I'm good.
Yeah. Versus
I'm
what?
good.
Spend a
I'll
couple
pay
of
the person.
$100 and like they'll handle everything, make sure everything is good to go. And they'll like ask you questions back like, hey, did you do XYZ? Do you have that receipt? Okay, cool. And I'm like,
Yeah.
all right, this is why I pay and contact and
Yeah.
do everything we got to do with you.
There's like, did you keep track of your miles? Because we can do like a portion of that. I'm like, oh snap, no, I didn't. Let me backtrack on all these events that I did. So I create that. Oh, dude. So like,
Yeah, and one day we'll get to a level where we have bookkeepers that manage all of our receipts for us, and then they work with the CPA so that we don't have to do any of that. But until we get to that point, like, just we take a
yeah,
picture of our receipts, we file it into a Google Drive, and that's about it, right?
dude, it's so like, yeah, that even portion in itself was like just seeing those like videos just like, yes, you're saying like this is what you can do with it, but what's you gotta make it makes sure you have something with substance. Then don't freaking just
Absolutely.
create LSD and just say I'm gonna write it off and then you freaking I just it was a weird thing. That one irks me.
Yeah. People are looking for the shortcut versus
Hmm.
like, I mean, you said it yourself. The first year was rough and made you question whether or not it was worth it. Right.
Oh yeah, I thought I was not making anything. I thought I'm just gonna spend money, stuff like that, and I got my tax return. I'm like, oh, this is how it can actually work. And I saw it. Like, oh, I get everything on the back end. Like, yes, I'll spend now, get it written back. I just didn't know how it worked. Like, I didn't see it until you see it. You're like, oh, snap. And that kind of propelled me to start my housing fund. Like, I could start saving up for a house. It's like, oh crap, like I actually made more coming back into my tax return versus like not. And like I actually saw it versus just like, is it worth it? Like, can I just do this under the table and just collect this and just put it elsewhere? But it didn't. It actually helped, which was insane.
It's just like going to a gym. We can't go to the gym one day and next day, you're like, whoa, G Wagon. Like, no, I am a Jeep.
Just so for reference, I call Nick a Jeep, and his girlfriend is she definitely settled for this guy. So she's the G Wagon in this situation. So when I call this guy a Jeep, it's because of that. So yes.
It's okay. It's all good.
No, she definitely settled, bro. I'm gonna put that on record.
Yikes. Well, I think on that note, let's end this.
That's it for the first podcast. Thanks for being the homie and throwing me under the bus in front of these probably 10 viewers that might be watching or listening in. Thank you.
Yeah. And if you made it this far, feel free to subscribe, like, comment on whatever platform you are listening to this on, whether it's YouTube or Spotify or podcast, whatever it is. But yeah, this is gonna be the first of many for sure.